Hello, this is a Bechstein model 5 grand piano that's 2 meters long, made in 1898. It's in our polishing room. Polish has just been completed and the technical work too. Just taking a look at it to see if there's any further refinements we might need to make and also to appreciate the piano. So the polish, it's about 70 hours. And my colleague told me he put more than 30 coats on. Normally it's about 30 coats, but it's a particularly fine rosewood, and we decided to repolished this piano, French polish, because it was so fine. So looking around the side of it, you can see we've made the rosewood so that it brings out most contrast possible, and it's slightly lighter than it would have been originally. We always do that, as I say, to bring out contrast. If you look, you can see the very dark, almost black rosewood, and then it goes to very light indeed. So just taking a look all the way around the piano. This is the long side of the piano. Sorry, the light's a bit different in different parts of the room, but hopefully you can pick out the fact that it's very integral. It's exactly the same colour all the way around, and you can see the different interesting grain that rosewood always has. So I really do like to repolish rosewood pianos. A lot of Bechsteins of this age are made black when they're restored. We don't really want to do that, but we do sometimes do it if the rosewood isn't particularly special, as it is on this one. Although it usually is good. Trouble is, there's a huge demand for black pianos, so when we get one that has particularly good veneer, this is the fall. I particularly appreciate that. As you can see, there's a lot of interest, a lot of contrast in it. The colour's roughly the same on this video, I think, as it is live. It's probably slightly yellower and slightly lighter on this video. I'm just trying to get give you the best idea of what it's like. There's the top of the fall, and again, plenty of interest in the grain. So it's particularly special. We finish off with 30 coats or more, and then finish off with antique waxing, so it doesn't reflect too much. I mentioned this many times on videos. You'll also see videos of pianos that have been refinished in black. This is all as original as you can get it, including the action style. So we're hopeful that we can do more pianos like this. If you take an interest, then please let us know, because, as I say, rosewood's so special, and a lot of them do end up being made black. That's the lid as you normally see it. Most times we go to tune a piano in someone's house and the lid's folded back like this and the music stands up. If you put the music stand down and then fold the lid back down as well, then we're going to see the top. And the problem very often happens is that this side here fades and underneath here doesn't fade, as we've mentioned many times, and so you fold it back and there's a fade line in the middle of it. So at the moment there's no fade line. If you do buy the piano, or if you buy a piano that's been repolished, really do recommend that you close it and open it, sort of sometimes closed, sometimes open, so it does fade evenly, because all pianos do fade, even if it's not direct sunlight or direct light. Obviously keeping blinds and keeping it a bit darker than usual will be helpful, or put a cover on it, although then you can't see the piano. So you can see this is pretty integral again, and a lot of interest in the grain. So my colleague, the polisher, is an artist as well, and does like to really just appreciate this rosewood so much. It's a delight to do, really. As you can see, it's not terribly reflective. If you do it rather than modern polyester, then it's so reflective you can't see the grain so well. You see everything that's in the room, so it's much nicer if you can do antique wax to finish off with, and then it looks as good as it can possibly look. Now the legs are never rosewood. They're faked in as they would have been originally to make it look as much like the grain on the piano as possible. The same with the lyre here. That's not going to be rosewood, but again it's made to look as close as possible. Very often the lyre and pedals are a lot dark. Sorry, lyre and legs are a lot darker than the rest of the piano. We try to lighten them as much as possible so that it matches in, and I think we've done a reasonable job on this. They always will be slightly darker, but as you can see, I'll try and show you both there. There we are. I'm spending longer than usual on the case here, obviously, because we have spent a lot of time working on the case. It's the touch and tone of the piano is the most important thing for us, and that's what we're mostly concentrating on. It's got an 88-note keyboard and original ivory keys. Now, in the centre here, this does happen to keys sometimes, and it doesn't seem to get any worse normally, but you can see there's slight cracks here. It's very common on lots of makes of piano Blüten as well. You'll get this cracking, and probably on Steinway I haven't really got a Blüten in stock that has this problem as well. And we can change all the ivories obviously, and we often do change ivories, so if you are interested in that, then that's fine. If you want them to get them absolutely perfect, that's the only defect I can find on the whole piano. Looking at the inside here, the acoustic restoration, which is basically the strings and soundboard and frame, all this side of things, is very similar to what we've always done on our restorations of Bechsteins, of which there are many. And as I say, we've got other videos, so I won't take too long on this, but there's a new rest blank here, new tuning pins, not too large, because if you put a new rest blank in, you can have smaller ones. If you don't put the new rest blank, you've got to go up to bigger ones. Something I wanted to particularly point out is that on the when we change the dampers and put new ones on, we go further up with the half wedge, so the half wedge goes right up the edge of this frame here, so all the way along there's wedge there and a half wedge here, so full wedge here, and normally that runs out and it's just flat dampers front and back here, but we change it so that it's better damping, basically a very good damping around this area. Obviously you can get good damping with just a flat, but we feel it's a little bit better to do that. So given the opportunity, we'll do that. Very clear cut off there, and we'll listen to the piano later on. Looking at the action, we've kept the original rocker system instead of changing it for a modern capstan one. The touch is not improved by changing it for modern capstan, it just helps for the technicians later on. But they've kept this piano as original as possible. That has tight hinges, the hammers are hardly worn, we've taken perhaps 1 or 2 millimeters off refacing them and then lined them up to the strings accurately. And really the tone of these, there's no point in replacing them because the tone is as good as you're going to get on a Bechstein. Excellent hammers. I wanted to show you something about regulation here. This is the system here, which is like a Steinway or Yamaha system. Not all Bechsteins are like this. In fact, I'm going to show you one that is more common on Bechsteins. So let's have a look at this one. And as we release the back check, you'll see I'll release the back check by lifting my finger a little bit off the key, and then you'll see the hammer coming off the back check. There we are, and it goes up just as fast as you can without it feeling in the too much heavy in the finger. Little faster than it has to be, because over the years, over say a 10-year period, it'll get weaker. There's the spring under there, so we've regulated the spring. Now to regulate the spring, this is the tool we can buy to do it. There's a little slot, and you fits the spring in that slot, the top one, not the bottom one. So there we are, the top one, and then just pull it down and pull it out, and then you can bend the spring. Normally bend the spring as close to this hinge as possible, and then push it back in. Now I've deliberately bent it too hard and pushed the spring back in. As we release the back check, it goes up too quickly, and you can feel that in your finger, and it could hit the string twice as well, so that's obviously not correct. So now we need to weaken it by slotting this tool in underneath and just pushing it up gently, not too much, otherwise you could weaken it too much. So now it's been weakened, and that's about the right speed. So as fast as possible without you feeling it in the finger, and it doesn't need to be as fast as that for normal playing. So we're talking about trying to make sure the spring will be strong for say 20-30 years really. So that's operating perfectly. Now there's the Note 88, the top spring. You can see the style, I think it's called Butterfly, I'm not sure, this style of spring, and there's a slot there. It's good to lubricate the slot as well. And you can see this tool is fine for the last one, but when you try and fit it in to the next one, there's not a huge gap to fit it in, and we find that a bit awkward. So my colleagues made this tool out of damper wire, as you can see, and that fits in much more easily. There's not enough of a gap. If you look here, you can see it's going to fit a lot more easily into the other ones. So if you're in the trade and you've got your own ideas of how to do this, then that would be very useful to know. I thought it might help just to put these tools alongside each other so you can see. You don't need a very big slot. You can see the ones that my colleagues made here. Just enough to get hold of the wire. Sorry, it's not quite in focus, that's better. And you can see that the other one's too cumbersome for most of them, we find, although if you're in the trade and you use them all the time, perhaps you don't have a problem, but we find it better to have a thinner one. Now, a lot of actions have a different type of spring, including most Bechsteins, I think, where you have a little loop there at one end, and then just one spring going through to here, and a screw adjuster, which is much easier to adjust. No doubt a lot of firms think it's best to have the butterfly type of spring. If you're in the trade again, it'd be great to have a comment, but it's certainly from a technical point of view, and I can't feel much difference on the action. It's much nicer to have this type to adjust. I've actually de-adjusted this one. You turn the screw here, so you just turn it up clockwise to make it stronger, anti-clockwise to make it weaker. I've turned it anti-clockwise just to show you what happens when it's too weak. So if I play the note and then release the back check, the note goes right down and rests on that rail there, hammer rail. And now if we try and play the note a second time, the jack doesn't go under properly. So it's really important to have the spring tight enough. And so we'll tighten it up. I took it half a turn down. So let's take it too far. I'm going to take this one a whole turn. So there's half a whole turn clockwise. Actually, I had to take it a turn and a half to make it too strong. So now if we lift the back check, it's too strong. I'm likely to hit the string twice. Actually, not terribly too strong, but it's a little bit too strong. As mentioned before, you want it to be as strong as possible, but not so that it'll hit the string twice or so that you can feel it in your fingers. Now it's just about right. So as I release the back check by taking my finger off the key a bit, it goes up positively and pretty strongly, but not so strong I feel it on my fingers. Actually, a lot of the work was done on this piano before this assessment sheet was made, so a lot of general regulation, cleaning and so on. My colleague said there was quite a bit to do, so this is since then I've made this assessment of it, and obviously since it's been polished too. So you can see it's fully restored, case mechanism kept in original style, and obviously restored rest planks, soundboard and so on, restrung. There was a couple of things we needed to do, just to do with the pedals there, as I wrote down, but there wasn't a huge amount to do after my colleagues worked on the action. So the hammer blow keyed it 10.5 or 11, we set it up, hammer blow 47 exactly. 61 legroom is normal, but the pedals are extremely low, so if you did want to put caster cups under to raise it, if you've got very long legs, then that would be a possibility. So I think I've mentioned everything here, and hopefully that's been helpful. But just last of all, the touch is slightly on the heavy side, really. Really want to set middle C at sort of 50. Some people like it light, others heavy. So I've learnt recently that not to do too much until someone's mentioned what they'd like, because 59 isn't too heavy. If you want to use a piano for studying and practicing, that is very useful. But 50 would be normal. 47 we often set it at as well. We by default set the bottom at 52-ish and 50 and then 48 at the top. But as I say, there's quite a lot of difference. The touch on Bechsteins is so phenomenal that they feel excellent. It feels excellent as it is anyway. So just to compare the tone with some other pianos. This is a Bluthner 175 centimeters made in 1912. And a Bechstein 180 centimeters made in 1963. So that's a Bechstein Model 5 grand piano, 2 meters long, made in 1898. And one thing I love about these is the action. It always is so fluid. Something special about a Bechstein action. One of my favourites. And this has been fully restored, but this time we've tried to do it with all original in every way. So the casework, as you can see, it's beautiful French polish, and it's been made with antique wax, so there's not too much reflection, and you can just see the grain stand out as much as we possibly can, really. So we're really grateful to have got this piano to do. And the tone of it, you can hear for yourself. Just so fluid to play. Very good unaccorded contrast too. Beautiful tenor area. As I say, we've done several of these because they do come out so well when they're restored. If you're interested in the piano, please do write to us, info@robertspianos.com. If you have a similar piano and you'd like it restored, we'd be really pleased to do it for you. And the French polish does take a long time, so unfortunately it's not cheap, but I think is worth doing, really, and of the inside of the piano too. And it's, well, what can we say? It's as beautiful as we can get a piano to be, and one of the most beautiful pianos there are. So thank you very much for listening.